two goals have come up for us, meaning us, USC, and YouTube, in planning these 4 weeks. One is that we want you to build on your strengths already, and another is that we want you to perhaps take a new approach. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you make a film here that looks like all your other films, but with higher production values. That might be one case. Or you might have been making art documentaries and you want to try a fiction piece. Or you may have been creating comedies and you want to try a dramatic piece. Maybe you've done human interest stories and instead you want to adapt a poem, or you want to do a music video. This is a time not only to build on strengths, it's a time to move in a new direction. That choice is up to you. We'll be there to help you decide, help you to crystallize that decision and to move forward. And ultimately it will be yours as to how you're going to use these 4 weeks. So the goals for today are to present a number of different ways to discover and develop ideas for your projects, and not just for these projects. Some of you may be using methods already of coming up with ideas. Some of you may be doing this consciously, and others may be doing it unconsciously, that you may have some part of your life that you can depend on to put you in the state of mind of coming up with ideas for a project. About 20 years ago, I read somewhere a creative person said that their greatest responsibility to themselves and to their work was to be ready and receptive when an idea struck them. The solitude is very important for idea development. On the other hand, I've seen people writing in the busiest of places. You see people writing in Starbucks, you see them writing in public transportation, you see them on trains, on planes. They seem to be in their own world at times. So there must be an idea development state that can happen in public as well. But I would like to ask you for a moment just to share with us what your experience has been in coming up with ideas. When can you count on it happening? When is it most likely to happen? Okay, Paul?
Kind of what you mentioned about going to the beach, you know, I'm not necessarily the beach, but just movement. For me, getting out, either going for a walk or running, that if I'm sitting at a computer, there's not as much creativity that flows from that. It's when I actually get out and I'm moving that things start to loosen up and come to me.
For me, it comes when I get to work outside. So
Yeah.
I'm working in the yard or something like that. I don't have anything else going on, and kind of exercising a little bit, and just the ideas start coming. They kind of formed there, but then when I lay down at night, I really have more time to think about it, and I know it's a decent idea when I can't. I started actually earlier this year, just started writing down at night. I would have an idea come up, and so I grabbed a journal and started writing down these ideas, and as soon as I wrote them down in full, then I could go to sleep. But before I wrote them down, it was impossible to go to sleep.
Full that
Yeah.
they're keeping you awake.
Yeah.
I notice a lot, like, I really like character-driven stories, and like, I sometimes, like, just in passing, like in Metro Transit, you look at someone and I just start to wonder about that person or what their life may be. Like, you know, it's a weird thing, I guess, honestly, but it's a wonder, like, oh, who does he go home to, and oh, what does she like to do on weekends, and you know, what if she was a spy or something like, just bad example, but just in general, just wonder about people's life and like write their life stories in your head, and you know, kind of translate that to paper.
Okay, so these are some wonderful ways that you can continue to use individually, but you can also try some of the other suggestions that were made if you're interested. We're going to start with an inner visualization exercise, which is something I've adapted from primarily from meditation, but
during the meditation exercise, like just going through that, it's just like you think about a lot of things that maybe you don't want to think about, but you go there anyway because that's where like your brain, that's where your mind goes.
It's like I was afraid of writing a wrong answer, though there is no right or wrong. But it's like it was somewhat, it was I don't, scary for lack of a better word. But it was relaxing, and I don't know, my creativity went directions I normally try not to stare it into in a weird way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You bring up the word scary, which is an important word to confront in being creative, because I think there's actually a state of being comfortably afraid, which is meaning I don't want you to ever be uncomfortably afraid in the 4 weeks here or ever in your life, honestly. But I think as a creative person, I think you should feel some slight anxiety, small, comfortable anxiety about what you're offering to the world in your films or in your interaction with others. I think that's a healthy thing to be in.
I kind of feel emotionally drained right now. When we were meditating, I didn't really see anything, but I became very relaxed. And as soon as the music hit, I saw this complete series of shots. It was hard for me to put it in terms of character and location because it was a whole minute-long sequence. I mean, I feel like I could storyboard this right now. I saw this older-looking man, a low-angle shot, grizzled, bitter, walking through the streets. I felt like I saw Werner Herzog, honestly. I think he's in Venice. And,
California or Italy?
Italy.
All right.
Cobblestone streets. He's frantically looking. All of a sudden, he stops. You see what he's looking at. There's a coffee shop in the distance. There's a body of water to his left. And as the camera goes in closer, it's a telephoto shot. You come back to his face. He's still looking solid, and it goes even closer, and you see a young woman with brown hair, and you see her face, and she's smiling, and she's talking with a man whose face you can't see, and he has darker hair. She's laughing. She touches his arm. And then the man with dark hair who she's talking with gets up and walks away. And she becomes very stoic and reserved herself. And the camera's just on them. She rubs her hands, and there's a ring. She turns it. She looks up, and the old man's gone.
It is a whole movie. Thank you. It's more than a tableau vivant. It's a scene. I think of the beginnings of projects as trying to harness clouds, meaning that they're big and beautiful and grandiose, and they're just moving by. And I've got to try to grab it, and in that process of grabbing that idea and making it my own, it has to be brought down to some manageable size so I can put it in a jar and work with it. Right? Otherwise, it'll just continue to pass by. And I won't make the film, no one will make it, no one will know about it, no one will even know it's mine. It'll probably pop up in somebody else's head over there. But with the 4 weeks that we have to try to figure out how to channel that, condense that energy into something, an idea that will work in 5 minutes, one day of production, 5 minutes. And the idea here is to get some feedback so that you can be sure that you're on track with your idea, or you can incorporate some of the questions and some of the suggestions or perhaps even criticisms that come up at this early stage. And this is a beginning of a process in which you'll be getting a lot of feedback from us over the next 3 weeks. So this is a good time for you to start practicing the art of giving and receiving feedback and criticism, which for many of us is the hardest part of being a media maker.
it's really about when you put two polarized personalities in a very small space. So I want to work with what we have, and that's a college campus. So two dorm roommates, and what happens when one of them has a huge ego, extreme sexual bravado, and the other is very introverted, timid, and is probably clinging to the only real friendship he has, even if it's a struggle, and that is with this roommate. So it's two characters. John Guthers, a sexual dynamo, and David Carmichael, his very timid roommate. So
I guess you want to either find actors who are really comfortable with this sort of style, or maybe being willing to cut some places that could just make it tighter, I guess. Tighter is great.
So this piece would highlight her current obsession with this guy named Fred, who is a painter, and he's also in a healthy relationship with his girlfriend. And Bianca, who's the main character, she journals about her observations of Fred and his girlfriend. And the crazy thing is that she kind of replaces the girlfriend with her, but in her mind, she's really like not this crazy.
I'm interested in hearing this and seeing this story. I always love a crazy person movie. But I don't know that. I'm just thinking, like, just with our one day of shooting, that is a lot of scenes for one day, and so I'm curious how you like intend to visually. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is possible, but how you would visually relay all that without, 5 years worth of, actually watching somebody and following along.
There's no dialogue. The only voice you're gonna hear is a voiceover of her journal entries. So like as she's like writing or like telling, like saying the story, like they're like images.
What if you started like, her sitting across from them at like a restaurant, and you can hear a voiceover of her. You get a montage of shots of, I don't know, a shrine of this guy that she's been stalking, or this relationship they've been stalking.
So, were there any issues that came up this morning in the first session that you'd like to follow through on this afternoon before we get to... Primarily what we're going to do is talk about the different roles, producing, directing, etc., and how they differ from each other and what the relationship should be. But before we get there, are there any questions about any of the story shaping that's come up so far that would not be specific for your film, a question we could apply to all 5 of the projects that are going to be made?
So what's the subtle difference between giving away everything at the beginning and just foreshadowing at the beginning?
Yeah. So foreshadowing is subtext, suggestion, innuendo, behavior. Montage is very good at suggesting what's going to come without giving it away. I think of as the openings as iconic images. What captures the spirit of your story visually, so that we're engaged with the way in which the story is being told. You might think of what are the opening lines of a really good story that you've heard or that you've read, and it might paint a picture of a location or a landscape or a setting or a situation, a dynamic or a conflict.
So when we're writing, we should just write as writers, and then later on come back as directors. That's when we get...
Starting right now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning is your last time to be a writer. By 9